You spoke about the brand power, what it carries, and you mentioned PSL, which has been a success story till date, and obviously we need to grow on it further. To take this session further, we will have once again on stage Mr. Usman Yusuf, who is the director, Nutshell Group, to moderate a question and answer session with our two esteemed guests, Mr. Konstantin Makarov and Mr. Trent Ross. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Usman Yusuf.
Yeah, that was very interesting. Thanks, Trent, for sharing some of the lessons around trust and reputation. I think we live in a world where reality has become cheap, but reputation and perception is now the real sort of strategic asset that a lot of companies and a lot of governments undervalue. I was looking at some statistics, and influencer marketing in 2015 was about $3 billion as a global economic spend on marketing. And in 2025, that number rose to $33 billion. So from 3 to 33. But what really shocked me was what the projections look like for 2033. Anyone want to venture a guess of what influencer marketing would look like in 2033 as a marketing spend? So 3 to 33, and 2033, which is 8 years from today, the expectation is it's going to be around 338 billion. So 3 to 33 to 338. And those, some say that's conservative, others say that's liberal, but let's say it's around that kind of growth. So influence and reputation is undervalued. And who would have thought, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that there'll be influencers popping up everywhere. And what are the influencers really trying to do? They're trying to create trust and build reputation. So I think it's very enlightening, and there's a lot of lessons to be learned. As Pakistani expatriates, we often look at our role outside of Pakistan, and I would extend that to Konstantin, at least, and hopefully to Trent as well, as ambassadors of Pakistan. And we often say to people we meet outside of Pakistan that Pakistan has a reputation problem, has a perception problem. That there are great things in this country if only you would come and visit us. And then you see a lot of these videos of travelers coming into Pakistan and finding great things about it, right? The most hospitable country in the world. Some of the best food they've ever had. They travel to the northern areas. They enjoy the grace and sort of openness, the hospitality that Pakistan has to offer. So the question, I suppose, Trent, is after that little monologue.
Yeah.
What are the reputational lessons as a country, so Pakistan can project soft power and reputation in the world and gain from things like tourism, as Konstantin mentioned, and all the other sort of benefits that Pakistan can reap from reputation?
Sure. So the first thing I'll say is be careful about which influencers you pick. We've seen, while the influencer economy has skyrocketed, as you mentioned, the problems caused by influencers have also skyrocketed and nearly sunk several companies. So the first thing you want to do is be careful about who your influencers are from Pakistan. The second thing is to understand what is your driver, what's your hook, right? Is your hook going to be going to the north and seeing the natural environment and hospitality? Is your hook going to be economic power? Understanding, first of all, like where you stand in the world, and then second, how do you drive that standing? And I don't think we know that yet. You have to go out and you have to talk to people and ask people to understand what it is exactly that you should be doing.
Absolutely, yeah. As they say that it takes, and I think you made a metaphor for the tanker, that it takes a lot to kind of move the tanker, but one spill and you're tainted forever. Yep. Another metaphor that I found interesting was that it takes years or even decades to build reputation, but a few tweets sitting on a toilet drunken tweets on a toilet to kind of ruin it. And I think we're all maybe thinking of the same person when I say that. Hint, Truth Social. But anyway, Konstantin, coming to you, Another way that nations, and I'm going to try to tie in the question that I gave to Trent as well, another way that nations project soft power is at the moment through sports. And whether that's sports in the traditional sense or it's esports, which has also become very popular in the Middle East, where amazing, incredible deals are happening in Saudi Arabia, in the UAE. There's some very interesting sort of moves that the Gulf states are making for that kind of soft power. So where does sports fit into this? You mentioned PSL, for instance. What other lessons that you can tell us about, that examples that we can try and emulate to try and create sports as the economic engine for Pakistan and create sort of that reputational dividend, but also a real financial dividend?
Sure, I appreciate the question. And just a little bit of a background, only about 28% of the revenue for Churchill Downs, which is a public company, comes from live racing. A very large percent is from a technology perspective, and most of our employees that are non-seasonal sit in that division. What does that mean? So this relates to, I believe, the previous panels that we've had, where sports and events are just one element to drive growth and capital investments and expenditure within the regional hubs, be it in cricket or be it in horse racing. But everything that's around that industry is really what that power engine looks like. So if you look at what does to produce an event, so right now we're all sitting here at the Future Summit. Somebody had to build a stage. Somebody sitting in the back of the room right now. You have folks with engineering degrees. So these are high-skilled individuals that are not replaceable by pure technology. Having said that, technology is definitely a part of the business. But from a lessons learned perspective, is to capitalize on your winning events and go all in on the events that you know attract the crowds. Build on them, improve them, make that experience into something that the individuals don't forget and becomes a family affair year after year.
Yeah, so people and technology, there are lots of pieces of the puzzle that need to come together to make sure that you can leverage the sports itself. It's not just about who runs faster, who jumps higher, who plays better, but it's monetizing better, it's getting the right people in place, the infrastructure, the marketing, and everything needs to align. Yeah, absolutely. Trent, we've talked this morning about technology and AI as well, and in the reputation game, one of the things that people are very concerned about is what is perceived reality in the age of AI?
Right.
And how is reputation either at risk? I mean, we've seen deep fakes, we've seen all kinds of sort of crazy things happen. So what view do you take about authenticity in the age of AI and perceived reality versus actual reality? I hope this isn't too much for the last session of the evening, but it's a question that I often wonder about, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Can I jump in on the sport thing?
Absolutely,
real
please,
quick?
please jump in. And by the way, I'm going to open it up to questions after the next question, so please start thinking about what questions you want to ask as well. So we'll try and take some of those on board, please.
I do want to mention something about sports. Sports, in its most ideal state, is a competition between teams of equals who are fighting a battle within a set of rules and a set of engagement. And so it is an attractive place for companies to advertise, right? Most sports advertising is simply that. It's marketing, it's advertising. But it can also become a reputation play when you interweave what your company stands for with the sport. And so I do agree that sport is a way, to your previous question, to build the reputation of Pakistan. On the question of AI, right? So one of the ways that I often explain reputation is by using the analogy of a Google search. And so now you could use it as a ChatGPT question, right? Which is, when you put in the name of a company in the Google search, the first thing that comes up is usually their own communications. So if you put in the Coca-Cola company, the first thing comes up is the Coca-Cola brand site. But on that same page is on the little Google drop downs or the little AI questions is Coca-Cola a bad company? And everything that you click on there is reputation. So your brand is what you're saying to the world, and that can be your authentic self. Everything else out there, everything the way it's filtered through the types of people who are in this room today, through AI, through data centers, that becomes your reputation. And therefore, the more people adopt an AI and just asking ChatGPT, right? And they stop there and they don't pursue beyond that, that makes your reputation ever more valuable to manage actively. And it makes it all that more difficult to manage your reputation in real time because it's just such a mess. So you really have to be on top of it. You really have to be flooding the zone, so to speak. If you are silent, somebody will fill that vacuum for you, and they don't necessarily have your best interests at heart.
Yeah, absolutely. I can think of a number of examples in recent history of sort of leaving the field open and filling the vacuum, as you said. Constantine, circling back to you, on the subject of, I mean, you've been with Churchill Downs in this role. You're relatively new to this role. So I was wondering, can you try and, for this audience, speak to them about what the size of this kind of sports opportunity really is? And if there's anything that's really surprised you over the short tenure that you've had in this area that you weren't expecting going in.
Sure.
So that would be great, yeah.
Good and loaded question. So again, size opportunity-wise, let's look at the company that I work with right now. From a market cap perspective, we're an 8 billion plus company, right? US. So that's just our entity outside of everything else that's around the sporting events. The partnership landscape has proven to be very interesting to answer that question. And if you look at current sponsorships from a reputational perspective, if you look at all the football clubs in Europe, they're all sponsored by non-European entities mainly. If you look at various sporting events globally, you're seeing a cross-pollination of sponsorships and trying to control a narrative of support for sports as part of that soft economic power. And I would say, to me, one of the surprises has been a pleasant surprise, is the amount of both deal making and policy making that takes place at any field or any sports events. People are there, they gather around to watch the allure of as you pointed out, the battle of the best. But on the sidelines, it provides a very clean and I would say non-biased environments to have frank conversations. And I think that has been an interesting observation, and I hope that came through as I was speaking about the soft power of what sports brings.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of Formula One in Abu Dhabi, for instance, or even a UFC or PFL. I was at a PFL event recently, and I ran into a colleague of mine or a classmate of mine from back in college, and now we're thinking about doing a venture. And you have the right kind of confluence of people who have access to capital and capability, and if you can get the right people in the room together, even though that wasn't the reason they got there, but that happens on the side. So absolutely.
But you share the passion, right? So I think once people or entities share a common passion, it's much easier to have conversations that are open-ended about other things outside of the reason why you attended an event.
Yeah, you want to work with people with similar interests. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm going to open it. Sorry, please go ahead.
I would say I live in Washington, D.C. You would be amazed how many policy agreements are made on the sidelines of a youth-based baseball field.
There you
Because
go.
Republicans and Democrats both play baseball. You're both there to cheer on your kids. And, oh, you happen to work. Oh, okay. Well, why don't we
There you go. Absolutely.
work it out a little bit?
So that's been fantastic, gentlemen. Thank you very much for talking to us about reputation and sports. I want to try and open it up to the audience if there's any questions for our panelists We're discussing reputation, brand. We're discussing sports and growth. Any questions, concerns, ideas that you want to share with us?
Hi, this is Fawzia again. Very interesting topic, reputation, integrity, and sports. Pakistan is a country with a lot of potential. And I would like to mention Sialkot, one city which is famous for sports good, for manufacturing of many other items related to sports. And the potential of Pakistan as an emerging market. So any thoughts on bringing these international level events besides cricket to Pakistan?
So, from my perspective, again, our focus as a company is really within the equestrian or the horse ecosystem. Given the current environment here, there is a bit of the jockey environment here as well. But in the very immediate future, I would say the market is not quite there just yet. But we would definitely be interested in developing it.
Yeah, I mean, just to sort of chime on there as well, Constantine, I live somewhere where there's an equestrian club nearby, and the amount of effort and infrastructure, just sort of transportation technology that goes into moving around horses is quite a challenge, and it's remarkable how you wouldn't imagine how challenging that can be. So I can completely understand where you're coming from in terms of that complexity, but nevertheless, you have to start, and when you start, you can start creating some of those. So perhaps horses is not the way to go or to start off with, but there are other opportunities. UFC is a great one, or combat sports. That's a great one that could possibly. But that's a conversation for another day. Anyone else would like to? Any other questions? Okay, we have one more. Okay, so we'll make this the last one, and then we'll wrap it up.
There's a comment. Warren Buffett is famous for two rules, which is like rule number one, don't lose money. And the second one is don't forget rule number one. But when it came to reputation, he told all of his business, he's got around 250 businesses. He told all of his CEOs, he said, it takes 32 years to make a business reputation, but it takes only 32 minutes to lose it. You can always, that was the only point where he said, okay, you can lose money, but don't lose the reputation.
Yep.
Even though he had the rule number one, saying don't lose money.
Yeah, I think 32 minutes is probably optimistic.
Yeah, in today's day and age, it's a couple of
maybe
tweets.
like 3.
Absolutely. Well, on that cautionary note, I think we can wrap it up. Farooq, over to you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, Trent and Constantine, for giving an international perspective of the brand power. I know for a fact that the football used in the World Cup is manufactured in Pakistan, Sialkot, and I think that's one of the examples that we can use as brand power. And I know football is one of the most popular games globally. In his presentation, Trent mentioned, and it was a very good saying, stuck to my mind, when Paul said that reputation has a habit of coming on foot and leaving on horseback. That's the power of reputation. So yeah, it's a two-edged sword, and we need to be very careful on how to manage it. But once again, thank you very much for this session on reputation and influence. I would like to especially thank Mr. Osman Yusuf also for moderating it, Mr. Trent and Mr. Constantine for joining us here in Pakistan for this session. Now for the souvenirs, I would like to request Major General Retired Shehzad Naeem Saab and Farina Mazhar, who are in the strategic engagement team of Nutshell, to join me on stage, please, for the souvenir presentation to our esteemed guests. Can we have the first souvenir for Mr. Trent Ross, who is the Global Chief Research Officer and EVP Ipsos? Can we have the souvenir for Mr. Konstantin Makarov, the Senior Advisor, Global Markets, Churchill Downs, USA? And last but not least, Mr. Osman Yusuf, once again, the director, Nutshell Group, who moderated this session. And now, a group photograph. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for being here. With this, we come to the end of this session and today's sessions. We had a long day, the inaugural session, redefining the direction. Then we had global insight to local action and what's shaping Pakistan's new growth story. Then we had a dialogue on intelligence reimagined, shaping the digital future of business. And of course, in the end, the reputation and influence part. We will start tomorrow's session at 8:15, networking tea, and the session will start at 8:50 a.m. We will have a networking tea right now. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It was a pleasure having you all. Pakistan, Hamesha Zindabad.